Hey everyone, it's Vision Gap. I want to start off this video by saying that it is not a 2xKO Doomer video. I know that a lot of people on the subreddit and even the Discord have recently been very sad and have been doom posting all about the downfall of 2xKO just because Marvel Tokon and Invincible Versus have been announced. This video is not about that. I was going to make this video much before any of those games came out. I will say though that with the announcements of these games, I think what I'm going to discuss in this video is even more important than it previously was. So, without further ado, I want to tell you that this video is about why people play games and about the design of 2xKO. So, if you're interested in hearing my thoughts and maybe learning a thing or two, then please sit back and enjoy this video on the 2xKO gamble. Now, to start, let's get a few things clear. All games, or even media you release, are gambles. There is no guarantee that any game you make, any show you make, what have you, will be a success. You can do things like create sequels, or use a very well-known IP to increase the chances that your product will be a success, but there is no guarantee. We can think of games such as Mass Effect Andromeda, for example, a game from a very well-known and established series that really did not do as well as the developers expected. In fighting games, there's a million examples. We could do Street Fighter Cross Tekken or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, amongst a multitude of others. Even if you have a strong IP and a long-running series, it does not guarantee you that your game will be successful. So therefore, all games are gambles. But what does Riot do to ensure, or do their best to ensure, that their games are more secure, more likely to be a success? Well, Riot relies on innovation. They will approach established genres from a new perspective. This is really what they attempt to do with their new games, and their developers often talk about this.
Spending an entire paycheck just to try another deck, over-the-top RNG deciding which player wins, metas that get solved way too fast, and cards that stay broke way too long. So we asked ourselves, what if we could change all that?
We spent a lot of time thinking about what we would do differently, and now we're aiming to shake up the card game formula by keeping what's great, improving what's not, and adding some new twists of our own.
So, we now have to ask ourselves, for 2xKO, what were Riot's innovations? Well, for one, it was the fact that the game is free to play, right? There is still to this day no classic 2D fighting game that is completely free to play. Maybe the closest thing is something like a Granblue Fantasy Versus or Killer Instinct, which still only give you access to a limited portion of the cast. With Riot games, they are true free-to-play games, so you could, by just grinding out the game, unlock all the gameplay content that exists in the entire game. None of the gameplay is ever locked behind a paywall. Now, I'm of the opinion that this free-to-play model will be a tremendous advantage for 2xKO. Why do I think this? One of the biggest reasons for the success of League of Legends initially was because it was free to play. And I think this very same phenomena could occur with 2xKO. I want to play a tag game. Well, 2xKO is free, the other ones are not. So I'm just going to try to play 2xKO and, oh look, it's fun, I'm just going to stick with it. I don't need to pay money to play the other ones. So this is an advantage. And this is not the gamble I'm speaking of. Now, let's look at a second advantage of 2xKO, aside from the free-to-play, and that is the Runeterra or League of Legends IP itself. This IP is very recognized throughout the entire world and is very popular, especially amongst younger people. And with the release of something like Arcane, this ensures that the property will continue to gather fans and will continue to be strong in the future. So I think this IP is a great advantage for 2XKO. My only concern with the IP is one, fighting game players do not know it that well, and this is a very hardcore game made for fighting game players in many ways. So I am worried that the IP will not have as much of an effect on the FGC as it would for maybe players of other genres that have more crossover with League players or Runeterra fans. That's not to say that a fighting game player isn't into League as well, or can't be into League as well, or that they just can't like the Runeterra universe because of something like Arcane. I'm just saying that I have not seen as much buzz about the IP of League of Legends as I have for something like Marvel Tokon, within the FGC at least. The other thing is, I am a bit concerned with their portrayal and a little bit of their characterization, or willing to really Runeterrify, if you will, their UI, their world. I have another video about it. You can check it out here if you want to see that video. But I have a video about kind of my concern with the way they use the Runeterra IP in the game. I think this could definitely be improved a bit over time. So I think the IP is still an advantage for the game, but I'm definitely more concerned about that than I am about free to play. Now, this is the last thing which I really want to discuss in terms of, will people want to play 2XKO? I believe this is the gamble. This is what could greatly benefit the game, or I think could potentially be a great threat to the game, and that is the 2v2 mechanic. Remember what I said earlier. Riot always tries to innovate when they release a new game. They don't want to create the same Street Fighter, the same Mortal Kombat, the same games which already exist in the genre. They want to give you something new, something fresh. We have seen in the past interviews and discussions with the developers where they were kind of at a rough spot. They didn't really have this spark, this new thing they could give to players.
You know, there was a point a few years ago where we were like, okay, we really need to, if we're not making a game that fighting game players just like love, just like more than any fighting game they ever played, we messed up, right? No, nobody wants to play like a fine fighting game that's just because it's easy. They want to play the most amazing, thing out there. And so we're like, okay, let's refocus on like what the fighting game community will want, while also thinking, okay, what can we do alongside that to bring more people into the fold?
And it wasn't until later on when Clockwork joined the team and he proposed this concept of a 2v2 game where two players could work together at the same time to play and to win the match, that they really got going and really started to develop the game that we know today as 2XKO. Now, what does this 2v2 team mechanic mean for the game? Well, it means that no other tag game or non-tag game has this mechanic. It's really never been done like this in a fighting game before. Yes, Street Fighter Cross Tekken had something like this, but that was much more of a gimmick and wasn't a fundamental embedded mechanic in the game. The developers of 2XKO are clearly trying to make this a very viable and a fun option to go. It's not just something that they tacked on at the end. This was something that was developed for the game from the beginning.
everything from that point on was like, all right, like how do we make this vision work? And we had to redesign every aspect of the game to work not just for duos, two people playing together, but also for a single person smoothly, right?
So, what are the developers saying with this mechanic? What are they saying about their beliefs? They are saying they believe that if you have a free-to-play game where you can play with your friend, much like League of Legends, then you've solved one of the big problems of competitive games, which is getting people in the door, right? The problem of acquiring new players and making the entry point to a genre as complex as fighting games way, way easier. The bar is set much lower. I believe their theory is we can make a complicated game. We can make a game for the FGC with all the depth and complexity that an avid fighting game player would desire. But at the same time, by adding this 2v2 mechanic, by making it free to play, we'll have a bunch of people coming in, and so this way they will eventually learn the complex systems because there will be so many people playing that they can just play with lower skill players until they learn the more advanced portions of the game. You don't have to worry about the most optimal fuses, the best character combinations, the perfect way to play neutral. You don't have to worry about any of this if you can just play with your friend at a low level until you yourself want to learn to play at a higher level. This is basically what happens in games like League or Valorant. Those games are extremely complex games, and they really don't have that good of tutorials at all. What do they have though? They're free to play, and you can play with your friends, right? Take that same concept and put it into a fighting game. And lastly, the final benefit I can see, at least the final major benefit of this 2v2 system, is that you can have a lot of unique interactions and gameplay moments because you have two players controlling a team. So this, theoretically, if it pans out the way the developers desire, will both benefit a casual player as well as a very high level professional player. It could affect anyone who wants to play in a 2v2 match with a friend. So these are what I believe are the main benefits of this 2v2 system they've developed, this gamble. Now, what could be the potential downsides? So for starters, let's look at this concept of playing 2x KO with your friend again. What if you're a League player and you have no friends?
Why don't you have any friends? I do have friends. You guys. T1-2 funny. T1-2, I fucking hate you guys.
Haha, just kidding. But legit, what if you don't have any friends to play the game with? Or you and your friend are both completely new to fighting games? Well, now you're not just playing a 1v1 fighting game, you are playing a 2v2 game, which is twice as complex, right? You have way more mechanics and character interactions and just generally things on the screen when you're playing a 2v2 game. You have to also just learn two characters. So all of a sudden, you're making it actually harder for new players to play this game. You know, I'm a Jinx player in League of Legends. I want to go play 2xKO. Oh man, I have to learn a second character too now. Well, I mean, all of a sudden this seems seeming kind of hard, right? I mean, there's a bunch of extra stuff I need to learn now. So if you don't have a friend, or you and your friend are not very good at fighting games, or experienced, or maybe have no experience even, then I think having it be 2v2 could pose a problem, making it a bit harder to learn than a 1v1 game. Speaking of 1v1 games, what if you are just a FGC member and you just want to play 1v1 games? You prefer to play 1v1 games. Well, then this is a different problem because now this game is less appealing to you because it's 2v2.
We were originally developing Project L to be a 1v1 game where two... Don't tell me that shit, bro. I would. Oh my god.
Champions enter, and one emerges victorious. But around
AKA a good game.
And you can say, well, if you're a new player and you just want to learn one character, you can with Juggernaut or Sidekick fuses. Okay, those are not really competitively viable, so maybe that could help new players, but that's not really going to help hardcore FGC fans who really just want to play a 1v1 game. I mean, you even saw it with Punk when he was trying out the game. He really just wanted to play 1v1, but it couldn't work.
I think that's whack. Like, let people who don't want to play with both characters have a chance to win the match, bro. No matter how better I am than a player in this game, if I play someone and I'm way better and they just decent at the game, they're most likely going to win.
And really, I don't think it should work, because a 2v2 game, which is best played with one character, doesn't really make a lot of sense. That's a bad look for a 2v2 game when playing with one character is the most optimal way to play. I don't think the devs would ever want that. Moving on. In my opinion, the IP is weakened when you make a 2v2 game. What do I mean by this? 1. Your intrinsic connection to a League character is weakened when you have to play a team. If you are a League fan and you play Warwick and you only play Warwick and you love Warwick and you've been playing Warwick for 10 years and you have to go play 2xKO now and you just need some second character you don't care about, well, then this could be a problem because you really don't want to play the second character, but you're being forced to play them. And in this situation, perhaps it would be fine to just play Juggernaut or Sidekick Fuse, and that would solve the problem because you're not playing at a competitive level, so you get to play your Warwick by itself and you're happy. But I just think it could be a potential problem for some people who just want to play their main. On top of this, I just think that the way the characters interact with each other, it suddenly becomes a bit stranger within the context of the narrative and the world of League of Legends when you have two characters. For example, in the lore, Volibear and Ornn hate each other. They're brothers, but they hate each other, and they fought in the past, and their fights are these huge, grand, epic fights, and it's a big story in the lore. Well, in a 1v1 game, that's awesome. You could have all sorts of special dialogue and voice lines between them to illustrate the gravity of this fight. In a 2v2 game, yeah, you could still be like, oh, if they're both the point character, well, then you can still have them deliver the lines. But does these lines about them fighting each other or trying to kill each other resonate the same way if Ornn has Teemo right behind him being like, never underestimate the power of the Scout's code? Does that really make it the same level of intensity and illustrate how massive this clash is going to be? I think you can look at a game like Granblue Fantasy Versus and you can see great examples of how you can make lore battles these huge, epic clashes if you have a 1v1 game where these two rivals are bitter enemies are meeting up to have their final fight to the death. And I think that when you make it a 2v2 game, this can definitely be lessened. Now, there are situations where there are two characters, let's say Jinx and Vi from Arcane, are fighting maybe Victor and Jace for whatever reason. That could be fun, right? Although they might not be completely lore accurate battles or whatever, they're still cool tag team duels, and you can still definitely have cool duos from League. Let's say, again, Kayle and Morgana, for example, where this would be fun to have combinations like this. But I still do believe that overall, it decreases the immersion within the world of Runeterra when you have a 2v2 game. The second to last thing I want to say is that, in general, tag games are harder to balance than 1v1 games. because there was so much more complexity, because there's so many more interactions, different characters, all these different combinations of move sets all on the screen, and all this different action happening on the screen, all these factors combined makes it way harder, in my opinion, to balance these games. And even if you don't believe me, you can just look at the history of tag games and see that they are very imbalanced games, and that even if you think of the most balanced tag game you can think of, it will be less balanced than modern 1v1 games, which have boasted very strong character representation and very diverse metas, with lots of different characters being very viable in tournament, online, and just amongst casuals as well. So I just don't think a 2v2 game will be ever quite as balanced as a 1v1 game, but if anyone can prove me wrong, if anyone can do it, I believe it will be Riot, because of their dedication to competitive integrity and dedication to their communities. Lastly, and this is my final point, is that at the heart of this mechanic lies a contradiction. This game is made for the FGC by the FGC. The developers have reiterated this time and time again. And yet, it contains many mechanics to get new players, players who are from League, who ostensibly do not play fighting games, in the door. This 2v2 mechanic is to get new players in the door. Free to play, get players in the door. Simple inputs to get players in the door who do not play fighting games. But 2v2 games also make this game more complicated. So that contributes to the core FGC. So really, who is this game for? When you make it a 2v2 game, you can say, well, it's for the hardcore FGC. The hardcore FGC, their most entered events are 1v1 games. So are you really making it for the FGC just because it's complicated? Does that mean it's for the FGC? Tag games, yes, are very popular, and there have been many popular tag games in the past, but have the heights of tag games ever matched the heights of 1v1 games? No, they haven't. Nothing compares with the number of Street Fighter and Tekken have gotten in recent years. Even games that are less popular have gotten extremely high numbers, like City of the Wolves recently. 1v1 games, in my opinion, are just more catering to the hardcore FGC just by the sheer number of entrants we've seen within the last 4 to 5 years. So really, is this 2v2 mechanic for new players? Well, it's making it more complex for new players, but they can't play with their friends. But then it's also for the hardcore FGC, but they probably just want to play a 1v1 game. But also the 2v2 makes the IP less engaging, which might be bad for new players who are just fans of League, because most of your new players are probably League fans. So you see all these kind of contradictory elements, I think, could, in a way, be combative towards each other. They can push players one way, push them another way, and I'm really not sure what the outcome is. This is, to me, the gamble. Whatever the results of this mechanic are, I think will have huge implications for the game. This game will not just be defined by it being a 2v2 game where you can have two players play on the same team. There are, of course, a million other factors which will contribute to its success or its lack of success. However, I think when it comes to the mechanics, this is the gamble of the game. This gamble of the 2v2. This is what will greatly help the game or harm the game. Whether the costs outweigh the benefits, time will tell. So, let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think my points made sense? Did they at least make you think more about this? Because I really hope the game succeeds. I've said this in many of my videos, I love Runeterra, I love League IP, I love fighting games. This is like chocolate and peanut butter for me. This is a match made in heaven. I really hope the game succeeds. But I don't know how this mechanic and how these other factors which I've mentioned will pan out in the end. So let me know, what do you think? Do you think the gamble will be worth it or not? Let me know. That's it for this video. This is my last 2xKO video I will make until the game comes out. I think I'm going to try to make more design content in the future and also some more funny, kind of laid back content. So if you want to see some more of that, if you want to hear me talk more about design, let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you enjoy. I will see you next time. I hope you got something meaningful out of this video. Like, share, sub. Take it easy, everybody. Vision Gap is out.